Hello everyone, welcome back to Decidedly Vanilla. My name is Pixlriffs, and today we're going to be doing some building. I have been building this little structure, and this is quite a big structure actually, for a little while now, and it is coming together a little bit. I'm not going to explain exactly what it is until it's all figured out, but today I figured I would show you some work I've been doing on the exterior, and I kind of want to mirror it from one side to the other, so I can show you a little bit about my thought process, what went into it. And this is the exterior wall I've been working on off camera, and I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. Not so thrilled with the way the kind of roof strap has happened. I think we need to raise that up a block or two just to give it a kind of meatier feel, and then probably redesign the interior, because I put these trapdoors up here as kind of a compromise because I had to remove a couple of those slabs to put in stone brick slabs for the straps on the roof, but I think that's probably going to have to change. Still, yeah, this has kind of been a strange build for me, because most of the time when you're building something, it tends to be that you work on the exterior first and then do the interior later. With this one, because I don't really have a plan for it, what I've been doing is working on this section here. Like, there's two very distinct sections to it. There's the stalk of the mushroom, there's the cap of the mushroom, which is the giant kind of space at the end of the hallway, and I don't really know what I'm going to be doing for the area in here. So what I've decided to do is work as much as I can on this and the exterior, and then hopefully how that goes will inform what happens in the larger cap area, especially when it comes to the outside of here, because I want this to look quite large and impressive. So working on the exterior detail of the kind of hallway bit is going to be interesting to see how that informs to how the rest of the build turns out. Now, yeah, I'm really happy with the way this has turned out. It doesn't look so great with fancy leaf blocks on, but I never use those anyway, mostly because they decrease my frame rate. But yeah, it's one of those things where fancy leaf blocks I think look really good on trees, but when it comes to hand-placed single blocks like this, or the vines that are kind of hanging down from the mushroom barn, it just doesn't look as good. I've tried them a couple of times off camera, and they just don't look so great for me. So hopefully anybody who's looking at this will have fast leaf textures on, and it's going to be more or less the same. Now, I will grab a couple of supplies from this chest here, and hopefully I should be able to recreate the same sort of design around the other side. We'll be needing some leaves as well. I have a couple of other details of this build that I want to add today as well, mainly starting off some work in there. But for now we need to get these out of the way, and I think we need to dig a bit of a trench around here so we can work with this. Probably re-landscape this area a little bit afterwards as well. We can fill in those. Great. And I think the way it works is the bottom layer of this sort of starts at the bottom of this wall. So what I wanted to do, basically, because most Minecraft build walls are one block thick, generally speaking, because it's all you need to keep out mobs and so forth. But for aesthetic builds, for larger buildings and more impressive stuff, you always need an extra layer or two to add detail, to add depth, to make the walls look kind of chunky and so forth. So yeah, what I've done here is I've got a wall that's kind of at the bottom here is shoring up this wall, and I just need to take a note of how deep this goes. Yeah, because that is the lower layer that I've put in over here. And obviously I blocked this whole area out in mycelium that has turned to dirt since, but for my own benefit, I think I'm going to fill all of this in with some stone bricks. There's going to be the odd block of mycelium here and there that slips the net. Now, yeah, I will have to keep referring to this side every now and again just to see where we're at. So I've been watching a bunch of Building with B00 recently, so you might, if you follow him, you might recognise a couple of the things I've put in here. I think it ends up like that. Okay, we'll just work with that for now, and then we can change it in a second. I don't want to keep running back and forth for the entire video. So, walls like this tend to look like they are kind of stabilizing the outside structure. Like, you don't see this so much in modern everyday buildings in real life, simply because I guess they have foundations and so forth. And there's less need to kind of shore up a wall to kind of hold it up. I think that more or less works out, actually. Actually, yeah, I've built that too high in the middle, but that's fine. We can adjust that now. But yeah, like in medieval construction and so forth, walls are occasionally built like with a sort of slope, just to make sure everything doesn't fall in on itself or fall outwards. Oh, these ones are always the trickiest to place, aren't they? Right. Let's see if we can do it this way instead then. No, this is going to take something a little bit different. Different approach. Come at it from the top. Perfect, okay. And we'll put these on here now. Great, okay, and that pretty much mirrors what we had on the other side. I'm fairly certain these all go in the right place too. And I started out actually by putting wall blocks in, like so. And the problem is I wanted them to go a little bit further down, but they join onto the side of that block like that, and that doesn't look as good to me. So I wanted them to... The trick is to have a transparent block on either side, and stairs still count as semi-transparent, so the wall blocks don't adjoin to them. They're not a full block. So the only spaces you can really put those without them connecting to anything other than the back wall is there. And the way to get around that, because I didn't want much of this mushroom block to be showing. I'm happy with a couple of glimpses of it either side of this wall, but I didn't want a huge amount of that to be visible from the outside, because that just looks like it's the interior wall. And it looks kind of like wallpaper. So I figured the best transparent blocks to use would be leaves, because especially with this solid fast leaf texture, they actually look completely solid like that, and they look like shrubbery that you'd probably find on the outside of a building anyway, and they also mean that the walls don't connect to it. The glass blocks, like I said in the DV radio build, the glass will actually connect to leaves, but walls and fences and stuff don't, which is actually kind of interesting to me, because that opens up a few possibilities for building with them. Now, I did want a little bit of wood on the outside of here, because there's a tendency with stone brick for it to look very overwhelming, and that's why I'm going to try and work a lot more detail into the outside of the cap sort of section of this build to make sure that it doesn't become just a massive stone brick wall. If you built a lot with stone brick, you know it just looks completely overwhelming if you use a ton of it at once. So what I wanted to do was add in a couple of touches like the trapdoors around there to give a little bit of wood to the outside of it, a little bit of that brown colour to balance off all the grey. But the problem is that a solid wood block would just stick out like that, so I was searching for an alternative that would have the same kind of colour to add to the palette, but would not be a full block, and I think those trapdoors work fantastically well. The other options would be stuff like stairs, ladders, item frames. They're not exactly the ideal. So do I have any more trapdoors in here? I thought I stashed a couple, but maybe I have used them already. Not to worry. We'll grab a bit of this dark oak. I've not been using much dark oak for the build. I started off using that instead of spruce for the floors, and it just didn't look as good to me. I think spruce and stone brick and the mushroom block texture go really well together. I think that's a really nice colour palette, and the dark oak was just a little bit too dark. It had too much of that kind of chocolate brown colour that I didn't think worked as well. So popping in these gives a really nice alternating texture here, and I don't know if this necessarily looks architecturally like it would, but I think it gives almost like a castle sort of feel to it with these sort of alternating up and down sections, and that ends up feeding into what, if I'm going to modify them in a minute, the straps of the roof. So I'm just going to sleep to get rid of the night so we're not ambushed by monsters while we continue to build this. The only thing I really need to do now is add in the finishing touches of these trapdoors. And already this has given so much more depth to the build. It's given a little bit more character to it with the leaves. I like the fact that the quartz still shows through here, because quartz on an exterior still looks quite stately, I think, but it kind of gives a couple of peaks of that mushroom that's inside and a little bit through there. The one thing that slightly annoys me is the fact that you can see the white spots through there, because I would be so much happier if that was just a red block. But red stained clay and red wool just don't have the same bright kind of cardinal red that the mushroom blocks have, so that's a little bit of a compromise. It's just kind of peeking through there, but it actually moves with you as you look around. It's like the eyes are following you around the room. Yeah, and this is the exterior. I'm pretty pleased with how this turned out. I do need to add a couple more stairs along the bottom here just to give it an extra bit of depth along here. I think pretty much the only ones I had went here and here, like so, and then at the bottom of these I think I added those around the other side, so that just kind of sticks out a little bit. The problem with stair blocks is that you can't always get them to do what you want. Oh yes, that's right, and the leaves went at the bottom there to even it out nicely so it doesn't look like a huge jigsaw. Yeah, the problem with stair blocks is that you can't always get them to do exciting things like this when they're not adjoining other stair blocks. And just having two on their own, you just couldn't get that little jut out thing where it only stops about there. I could turn those ones at the back into stair blocks, but then lighting glitches start to happen, and I'm not a fan of having these huge dark areas suddenly appearing in my build. So that is it. That is looking pretty good by my estimation, and yeah, I'm going to tidy up this area around here. I'm going to show you a couple of other things about this build which I'm starting to put in. Basically this is going to be like a kind of important government building. And these sections down here, this is going to be a large auditorium, and this section down here, these are meant to be like little toilets or kind of broom cupboards or something like that, that are just accessible from the main hallway. So you go in just before like a session starts in here, and you know, you can do your business, do whatever you need to do, come back out, and then debate happens in here. So yeah, this is basically going to be the seat of power of the Democratic Republic of Mushroom when it's finished. Hence the need to make it a slightly grander build and make it a little bit more impressive looking. Now, I'm going to take these out temporarily because I want to show you something which you've already seen over in Mount Mushmore with the display cases for the armor stands, but I want to show you guys the method for that on camera because I don't think I've really shown that off, and you've seen a few people do it maybe if you watch a couple of other series. B00 did it in one of his recent episodes, having seen it on Reddit, and I was around on Reddit when that originally got posted. I just found it out for doing the armor cases in Mount Mushmore, and turns out everybody had the same idea roughly at the same time, so it was kind of cool, one of those moments of kind of parallel creation. Now, you can pop that facing down. This is the tricky part. I probably should have placed the piston before I placed the glass block, shouldn't I? Luckily I've got a Silk Touch shovel here and can get rid of that one. And this is going to be a lot easier to do that way. Yeah, fantastic. Good. It's got to be a regular piston and not a sticky piston, obviously, because otherwise the sticky piston is just going to keep hold of that glass block, and that's not what you want. Let's add a dirt block on here just so we can add the button. And it pushes it down. If you push it down from the top, armor stand stays exactly where it is. So that's the most important bit. I'm shuffling this into my inventory for no reason. And there you go. And that is looking pretty swell, I think. And adding a dirt block just means you can take away the button and the piston dead easily. And it's standing there. It's actually standing on a half slab down there because I didn't want it to fill up the entirety of this case. And the problem with having them straight on is that the sleeves do stick out slightly, but there's nothing you can really do about that. It's slightly wider than the block, so that's nothing really to be done there. Let's pop in the piston up here and do this one as well. And this could be used for a whole variety of stuff which I have not experimented with yet. I've had a couple of goes at doing more interesting stuff with armor stands, and I did wonder if you could suspend an armor stand in midair, like balanced on something like string. I've given that a go a couple of times and it just doesn't seem like it's possible, which is a shame because there's a bunch of really interesting stuff you could manage. But for now, I'm pretty happy with just having these armor stand cases together. I think they look really neat. They definitely add something in terms of, you know, you'd have suits of armor or something in a castle build or something like that. I think these would look really cool somewhere like that. I'm thinking of doing what I've done in Mount Mushmore and adding a carpet. This is really weird. I've noticed this yesterday when I was experimenting with this. Maybe because they're entities, the armor stands, because they're not exactly like building blocks. When you tilt your... Yep, there they go. When you tilt your point of view up a little bit, they just flicker on and off like that. It's really strange. Right, yeah, I think I might go and grab a little bit of wool for the carpet and just add them to the top of there. Black carpet, I find, works the best because it looks like the top of some sort of tank or atrium sort of thing. Is an atrium a right word? I keep saying atrium is more like what that is. Terrarium, I suppose, something like that, or an aquarium. It's some kind of arium. The mushrooms have been escaping from the mushroom barn. And this is that problem where they glitch through fences because the fences don't load in before the animals load in, and they just kind of end up out here. So I have been breeding these guys just to keep them in the pen for the most part. I've also been trading with my villager for name tags. I've completely run myself dry of emeralds, and I have 16 name tags. And I'm not sure if the better thing to do is to trade some more emeralds or to go looking for more dungeons. I have a feeling I will probably just have to get stuck into some trading, but it is difficult because if you trade for a name tag a couple of times, the name tag trade just goes away until you've done a bunch more trading with that librarian. So I either need more librarians or I just need to work out how best to facilitate more trades. I finally added a 4th armor stand in here, and this will probably come out on either Kane or Clandlewood's channels, but we had a go over at the arena over by the town of Apple, and I accidentally took home one of these suits of armor, but then I figured it was okay because it generates a new one every time you use the arena, and you just have an infinite supply of these. I think B-Ran was talking about putting them in a chest or something that destroyed them after you used them, so there was every chance that somebody was going to end up with extra, and I think it just rounds off this area nicely. The only problem is when I come in through this door over here, more than once when I've been building this place, there has been a creeper in here that has blown up, specifically this section. So every time I come in now, I see this glimpse of green and I think, oh no, a creeper has gotten in. But this area is pretty well lit now, and I'm fairly confident that there are no creepers anymore. So that should be okay. I need to add one more to the top of here. I did all the other armor stands before I added the ceiling in, so that was never really a consideration when I was doing this before. And I've done the same mistake where I've put the glass in before the piston. Should really learn from that mistake now. Piston up here. May as well do this with you guys on camera because you've seen the method for it already. I've got it down to a polished art now, I think. There we go, and now we can get rid of these, break the piston, tidy up the remains, and there it is, final armor stand. Now, I don't know if I still have any black carpet left here. I don't. Okay, so we'll just grab a couple of these, make ourselves some carpet, like so, end up with 3, so we can put one back. Oh wait, no, 3 is a perfect number. 3 is exactly what we need, because then we can add 2 to the ones in the government building. Fantastic stuff. Let's pop out here. Is it getting dark yet? No, it's still good. Oh, one other thing that I haven't shown you guys yet is that I automated my cactus farm. Well, semi-automated. It doesn't regrow afterwards, but bam, there it goes. Yeah, I decided I wanted to do that, and you've probably seen a piston poking out from underneath one of these in a previous video, but I figured it was probably time to get some green dye on the go, just in case I wanted to build anything with green in future, and I decided that pistons were probably the way forward. And it does occasionally pop a cactus block off in a direction I don't expect, but I always get all of the cactus I need, and then the mushrooms walk all over it. Just got to replant some of this stuff manually. I won't do all of this now because it'll take ages, but there you go. That's the general idea, and it's nice to have some automated way of collecting all that cactus without any of it being destroyed. I'm going to need to eat again in a second, aren't I? I have a habit of sprinting around even though I have speed on that beacon. It just has to happen. Okay, let's pop these in. Like so. And I will work on the roof off camera. I don't want to do too much experimentation now because that will just be a lot of me umming and ahhing and some trial and error. So for now, I think we'll call it a day. It's been pretty productive. I think we've all come a little way in the construction of this, and hopefully you should get to see it finished in the next couple of videos. But for now, from Decidedly Vanilla, my name has been Pixlriffs. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys soon. Bye for now.